Whoa! Welcome back to Gentlemen Prefer Cinephiles, a movie podcast where we talk about movies.
Yay, movies.
Erynn.
Hi, I'm Erynn.
I'm Charlie.
Wow.
And today, we start off with current events once again.
Yes, so we are going to go ahead and take some time to talk about current events. Do I have lipstick on my teeth?
No, you look great.
Sick. I just had to make sure. So mine is that Incredibles 2, literally 5 hours ago, just became the first animated film ever to gross $600 million at the domestic box office, which is pretty great. I'm actually really surprised. That seems like something that...
It's the highest grossing domestic box office for an animated movie ever.
Yeah, that seems like it should have already been done. I'm just shocked it hasn't been done already, but that's super cool.
Yeah.
Because animated films deserve it.
Mm-hmm. So mine is from comingsoon.net. The title of the article is Benedetta. First look at Paul Verhoeven's lesbian nun drama.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah. So,
Paul Verhoeven?
Paul Verhoeven.
The director of hits like Showgirls?
And Starship Troopers and
also,
RoboCop.
if you're a new listener, I'm not saying that ironically, I love Showgirls.
We both do.
So much.
It's a great movie. Apparently Benedetta Carlini was a 17th century nun in Italy who claimed to have visions of Jesus, and she was starting to get the stigmata, which is the wounds in the hands. And so she became really big in the church, but then later she was excommunicated and discredited and stuff because she was a lesbian and a woman.
Are you sure it wasn't the black spot?
Just kidding. The black spot. Billy Bond.
We're standing in a room with a dead guy.
Alright.
Muppet Treasure Island is a classic.
Can you imagine if Paul Verhoeven directed Muppet Treasure
I
Island?
would love that.
That would have been so good. Tim Curry just cuts a Muppet in half and there's just blood everywhere. Paul Verhoeven should have directed the Happy Time Murders. That's what I'm saying.
Paul Verhoeven should direct everything.
I love Paul Verhoeven.
He's so good.
So much. Anyway, that is current events.
That was amazing. When Charlie first pulled up the article, I actually thought it said Paul Thomas Anderson, and I was so confused.
Man, I wish. I love Paul Thomas Anderson.
It would be a way different look.
I love Paul Thomas.
Yeah, it'd be.
Paul Verhoeven's really good, though. He's great at doing that medieval look, too. Mm-hmm. He did, his first movie was, I think it was called Blood and Steel from 1985.
It was Guns, Germs, and Steel?
No, that's a documentary series about...
It's not a documentary series, it's a book. Then it was later turned into a documentary series.
Wow, so I guess it is a documentary series after all. You fuck. Yeah, so yeah, that's it.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be pretty sick, yeah.
So today we will be talking about a very illustrious, not often talked about, an art film. Really.
Art house.
It is art film. To me at least, it's an art film. We're talking about Super Inframan, directed by some guy for the Shaw Brothers studio. But the important thing is the Shaw Brothers studio, which was a very famous Hong Kong kung fu studio. Mm-hmm. They produce a lot of movies like the 36th Chamber of Shaolin, the Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, a lot of things that were used as samples in Wu-Tang songs and stuff like that. So, they're really famous for these sort of really fast, well choreographed kung fu movies. And Super Inframan is one of those, but it's a Japanese superhero story.
And to kind of extend that, they kind of were pioneers of that kind of style.
Yeah, the kind of style of things that inspired Kill Bill and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The Shaw Brothers studio is always talked about by Quentin Tarantino and people like them. They're very well known for really creating the style of what kung fu action movies would be.
It's kind of I almost always perceive it as an equivalent in Eastern cultures as their their kind of exploitation genre.
I don't think it's as
It's not as extreme by any means, but it's that similar kind of B-movie feel.
That certainly does happen, later on. Mm-hmm. As they get into the late 70s and into the 80s, they start producing like, you know, sequel after sequel after sequel to the ones that are popular, and they all sort of become the same. But you know, I would argue that many of them stand out on their own as like above the rest. And one such movie for me is Super Inframan, 1975.
100%.
So, Super Inframan is a movie about a science government project led by this colonel guy with glasses. He's a doctor. And one day, a volcano erupts and the city catches on fire. And then the mountain crumbles and reveals that there's like a dragon face here and like a skull face down here and like the mountain shape you see. And
Charlie's painting is a beautiful picture.
And on the TV screen, a character named Princess Dragon Mom.
She's actually featured on our YouTube thumbnail.
Yes. Introduces herself, and she's like a fabulous Japanese woman in a blonde wig.
She's like, hi, I'm an icon.
With a dragon helmet and like a dragon bustier with like golden breastplate and like this skeleton belt and a cape. And she turns into like a guy in a dragon costume. And she comes up and she says, I am Princess Dragon Mom. You will all be my slaves or be destroyed. And then she cuts the feed. And it's like, whoa. And then from there,
oh my god.
the leader of the science program turns the best, coolest agent that works for them, who like does a flip out of a burning building and saves people at the beginning. He becomes Inframan by having little pieces of electronics inserted into his arms and legs, and then he gets zapped into Inframan. And then he goes and he kicks a lot of demon monsters' asses.
Yeah.
And that's the rest of the movie.
And it's like, it's very interesting because when you watch it, like, you'll definitely get very strong, like Power Rangers vibes.
Sure.
Because it's very clear that, like, Power Rangers pulled a lot from this specific film from the Shaw Brothers.
Well, it's like, it goes like this. So in the 60s, there's a lot of tokusatsu shows, which is basically just Japanese superhero shows. Like Ultraman, Kamen Rider, and like, I don't know, the Astro Boy anime and stuff like that. Like there's like mech anime that were starting to come out and stuff like that. And so that happened, and then in the 70s, a show called Super Sentai came out, and it's been going for like 30 years or something like that. It's been going for a long fucking time. And the Power Rangers took footage from that show and incorporated it into their American show. And so Super Inframan is sort of like coming out at around the same time as Super Sentai. But like the thing that makes Super Inframan different from those shows is that the choreography is way better and it's way faster, and it's like the budget is much larger than a TV show, so they can just like, they do all these like really weird like pyrotechnic gore kind of effects with like the creatures, and like it just gets really creepy.
And honestly, the editing does a really, really good job of like,
for sure, helping
that style work without it look like, it helps enhance the stylistic choices. Like I find in a lot of early material like this, sometimes it's dated by how the editing shows off like certain technical things they had to do to get around certain effects. But the editing is really strong in this.
Well, the thing about Super Inframan, I think, for me, is that it's got this really, really crazy momentum where it's like the editing is incredibly fast. Like the way things happen is like super fast. A lot of cuts happen really quickly. But the way that they do the framing and the choreography, like you never lose track of what's happening. Like you can just like kind of, you're just racing through this like crazy fight, but like you see pretty much the whole fight.
The continuity from shot to shot's really good.
You see like the whole fight, and it's like, it's just amazing. Like it's the kind of visual literacy that I wish action movies had nowadays, where like it's fun and over the top and cheesy as hell, and you can like knock it for whatever you want aesthetically if you don't like it. But like the editing is on point in this
But I have
movie.
to say, even like aesthetically, it's really hard to knock it because it doesn't feel disingenuous. It's very like all the creative decisions seem to be held very strongly all the way through.
It goes hard.
Yeah, it's like everyone's at 100. Like every line is being shouted, and like it's a really immersive experience.
The sets in it are amazing.
Oh yeah,
Princess Dragon Mom's castle lair is like they have built like 3 like giant chambers that are all like really expansive, but they also have like a lot of like interesting details in them that like sort of it all kind of feels really cohesive, which I really like. And I just feel like the special effects really take it to the next level, where it's like the way that they do the special effects feel so like kinetic and real to me, like when the tentacles come in and are like grabbing guys, and it's like really the stuntmen are like being wrapped in this stuff and they're like flinging themselves, but you'd swear through like the wire work that it looks like they're really being like pulled like really far into the air and stuff like that. And it's like that just comes from really top-notch training and stunt work, and like just them being willing to do whatever. Like I'm sure a lot of things on this set were not safe at all. Like at some point he like lasers this weird like laughing demon thing in the water, and its like head just explodes into fire. Yeah. And it's like, holy shit.
You can see like the extras, you can see their costumes like ripped up. And,
like they're really going all out. Yeah. So like realistically, the clothes are getting like really ripped up as they go along because they're just like fighting like, and because they're in rubber suits and stuff like that, they can just like fight like really hard still. So like all the hits with the sound effects and everything, it feels like they really like land, and it just like creates this experience that's just like a roller coaster.
Well, and in terms of aesthetic, a high point for me was always each individual character design, because everybody feels like, I don't want to say archetypical, but everybody feels like they fit a certain element of the film, and everybody is very strong aesthetically in that element. Yeah. Like, you have the scientist who is very, very strong, but he's definitely very contrasted to all the other scientists, and they all feel like separate individual pieces. And then even when you look at all the monster character designs, like, it's kitschy and it's silly, but not in a way that takes away from the experience.
Yeah, I mean...
You have, like, the man with the drill hand who makes me laugh every time.
He's so good!
But, like, it's also... I also don't feel like he's unnecessary.
He's got, like, big, like, foam white teeth that are all sharp and sticking out, and he's just like really excited about like pretty much
they're like kill them all, and
the monsters are so unique actually. Like all of their personalities are really different too. Like there's this pair of like creepy silent robot guys with spring necks that fight him towards the end.
Isn't Mystery Science Theater doing like a thing with all the monsters?
So the reboot of Mystery Science Theater on Netflix. The set and the evil henchman of like the woman that's making them watch the movies is designed after Super Inframan.
Oh, okay.
So they have like the skeleton. Oh man, the henchmen for Princess Dragon Mom are so cool.
They're so good.
They have like skull masks and motorcycle helmets with horns on them, and they have like these cool like they're wearing like black jumpsuits with these like white gloves and like this white vest that looks like skeleton.
Also, on the note of women in the film, I think it's really surprising how like feminist the film is. Like in the way, like when I say that, I mean like all the female characters are characterized as extremely strong, and it's not like a negative. It's not perceived as negative in any way. Like, you have the villain, Princess Dragon Mom, who's just running everything. Man. And who is just, like, amazing.
She's awesome.
And then you have, like, the scientist's daughter, who's also super headstrong, and it's not really, like, questioned at any point. And then you have this little girl who's characterized as, like, I'm gonna be the next Inframan. I'm gonna be Inframan. You know, like, and, like, he's just really encouraging about it. And it's really, really interesting, like, to see. Because, like... When you look back at stuff like this in Western cinema, like, you don't necessarily get that as strong. Like, you have to read into it a lot to get, like, a feminist.
I think that a thing that happens in a lot of, like, Eastern stuff, like, especially, like, Japanese movies, but certainly a lot of the Hong Kong movies, too, is that the female characters are really strong because, like, they work around it because they make them the villains, so, like, they can characterize them in a more interesting way. Like, so, like, you know, hero women in a lot of, like, older mythologically rooted stuff are always, like, there's always, like, the damsel in distress and stuff like that, where they're not, like, as upfront. And when they put them into, like, the villainous roles, they can, like, develop them a lot more. It's like in one of the Monkey Goes West movies, The Cave of the Silken Web, the bad guys are, like, these, like, 7 really cool like spider women that live in a cave that are like these kind of like demon ladies, and like they do that a lot in the movies. Where I mean, even the second one's called Princess Iron Fan, and that's like the woman where like they can make these really cool, interesting female characters, but they're in the antagonist role, but they're still like super fun. Like I don't think you can really be against Princess Dragon Mom because she's just so cool.
She's so cool. Like she's like let's kill all the humans and make them slaves, and I'm like, yeah. Like
she's got like a glove that she holds the whip in that's just like a little dragon head. That's her glove. I
also love just like it's really endearing how over the top everyone is, because sometimes like I like in some films it just doesn't work, but for this it works really well.
Yeah,
like it really helps make it believable.
Sure, yeah. I also really like the guy who plays Rama, who is Inframan. The guy who plays him is like really charismatic too. He's like he's a really solid actor, as well as being like really talented at fighting. So like I felt like all the characters are just like they're so fun to watch, and it's like the whole experience to me, I just felt like I just have like a great time all the way through, and I feel like I wish that more superhero movies were like it, because like I'll be serious, Super Inframan is like one of my favorite superhero movies.
Well, and honestly, like none of it feels like it's also really interesting to me, and I also really enjoy it because none of it feels like coded Western or like trying to like pull from a Western image to me.
Sure.
Like it all feels very like unique culturally. Like it feels like a unique experience.
Yeah.
Because like I like Western cinema is fine, and I love Western cinema, but like I don't think it's necessarily like the best ever or like the only good cinema. So it's really interesting to see something that's not even considering Western cinema.
Yeah. Like I don't know. I feel like it handles scope in a really good way. Like they only have like a couple hundred extras, but it feels so big just because of the way that it's framed and like the way that like the choreography works. So like to me, there's like this scene that happens when they're all fighting on like rocks and in like this like kind of like slightly deserty area. And to me that feels like it has so much scope, like especially when the laughing demon shows up. It's like it just feels like so big all of a sudden, and like I feel like that something like that has more weight and like scope to me than like the scene in Infinity War where they're just fighting like wave after wave of like those like claw things.
Well, it's also really interesting how like it sets up a tier of power. Yeah. So it doesn't lose its stakes as the hero keeps beating villains.
It keeps getting harder and harder.
Yeah. So and then that really like helps you not get non-invested in the experience, because a lot of action movies, they, like you said, they set up this like wave of the same thing.
Yeah.
And so like it just gets monotonous and boring, but like with this it's like, oh, he has to defeat the normal bad guys. Okay, he's done with the normal goons. Now he has to defeat this one monster. Now he has to defeat the harder monster. Now he has to defeat two monsters. Now it just works well.
Well, I mean the thing about like a lot of like more modern superhero movies is that they don't take a lot of time into designing the villains in an interesting way. Like the villains in this movie, you know everything about them just by seeing what they look like.
Yeah, that's true.
Like when there's like the bug guy who's just like I'm gonna go kill this guy. You like, you see that design and you get it.
Well, the difference I see with modern superheroes and this is, in modern superheroes, like it's been a thing I've been very vocal about. It's like every single issue is the worst issue ever to happen to anybody ever.
Yeah.
And in this, they're very realistic about, like, this is not the best villain. This one's not the strongest villain. He's not the strongest villain. He's stronger than the other guy, but he's not the strongest.
But they still do it better than those movies, too, because, like, it's, like, the end of the world, pretty much.
Yeah.
But they, like, show that the entire city is on fire and that people have to evacuate. And, like, these monsters are a big deal. Like, they're destroying mountains and stuff. Like, you can see, like, the real effect of it. It's not, like, a bunch of faceless... it's
not like 3 shots of the same extras running down different streets in New York.
It just feels like, it just feels like there's more weight to it almost, just because like they're willing to exploit the fact that it's like destruction. So I don't know. In terms of that, it does a good job of being sort of like the scope of the damage is like really, you know, up to the frame. So let's talk about the technical side of this movie, because obviously it's very important.
Yes.
It was shot in Shawscope, which is
I don't know
like
what that means.
CinemaScope. It's like
I love the idea that they started their own company and they were like, we're gonna shoot it in Shawscope.
it's like anamorphic film. I think it's
very wide.
Yeah, it's 2.35.
Like everything is so wide. Like the sets are really long, like and really big, and it really like it looks really different. It looks really good.
They really do fill up the super wide screen.
It feels like you're watching something like, I mean, like to compare it like to like a film. I guess it'd be more likely for I don't know, to compare it to a Western film. Like you're like, what's it called? Fuck, How to Marry a Millionaire, and that's shot in CinemaScope. So all the sets are a lot wider, and there's a lot more space, like horizontally.
Yeah.
so it feels like very open.
Or you could even compare it to Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh my God, Lawrence of Arabia is also that was also a CinemaScope one. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Lawrence of Arabia is the desert, though, so it's not, like, very, I don't know.
It's just really widescreen.
Yeah, it's just very widescreen, yeah.
But yeah, so it's, like, a lot of detail in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like, even though you can tell, like, some of the stuff is foam and all that sort of thing, like, I never really get taken out of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like. Like, I feel like I'm in it the whole time.
Well, when I'm watching a Steven Seagal movie and he gets pushed into a brick wall and the brick wall gives way, I'm out of it. But like in this, when somebody's like thrown into like a computer or something and it like folds in, like I don't know.
You're not given time to get out of it.
Yeah, and then with this, like we talked, like the editing is really fast to cover up that.
It's like you're just going, like, even when something kind of silly happens, like it's just rolling. It's just like when somebody gets thrown into a computer, it's like there's like a shot of an explosion, and then there's like another shot of an explosion over there, and there's people jumping, and then it's like you know, somebody running into the frame and all that stuff. Like, you know, they keep the story going, and they're not going to get bogged down by like trying to focus that much on like, you know, one specific shot. Like the way that it's put together incorporates more into like its overall construction than like the separate shots, even though some of them are really like cool and like cinematographic as far as like the shot composition goes. It's mostly put together to be like an experience that takes you through it like in time.
And then really quick, like to offer a counterpoint, because there's one element of the plot that like always like stalls it for me like a touch.
No.
And that's like how like, okay, so spoiler alert, the villains like this little girl and this guy, I don't know, the people get kidnapped.
Yeah.
And it happens like so fast and it's like the silliest thing I've ever seen in my life. They're like, look at this cave, and then they go in and they're like, oh no, we're captured, and I was like, oh, okay.
I strongly disagree. But of course I think this movie's flawless, so I would disagree. But, you know, I think that everything's paced out pretty good, and that's really, they're not even really kidnapped for all that long.
Well, I mean, like even looking at like that issue, like that's like a very specific short issue that's like 5 seconds later you're not even thinking about it because something else is happening, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that some people might just like not be able to get into it because it's certainly like kind of confrontational aesthetically.
Well, I could also see a lot of people like, well, I see a lot of people with like something like a Bruce Lee movie, and they see like the ADR, and they see like the over-the-topness, and they're immediately turned off for some reason.
Yeah.
So I could see like an audience not being as into this because it's so different than what they're used to, like especially in terms of action and style and aesthetic. Yeah,
I think that people might be turned off because I know there's like this whole thing that like movies can't just be like intentionally silly anymore. Like people are really hard and fast on movies being realistic. And
everything needs to be really serious and really surreal. It needs to say 10 important things about the world around us, or it's not good.
I feel like you know there's a lot of room in there for movies to say something and to like be interesting, but then also just be fucking crazy and fun, and just like do something different And I think that, like, Super Inframan to me just sort of, like, it's the type of superhero action that I feel like we just don't get enough of. Like, the reason that, like, when you read a comic book, and, like, when you see, like, the splash pages of people fighting, and you, like, sort of fill in the blanks in your mind, like, it doesn't just look like people, like, punching each other one after the other in succession. You
Branding each other with a bat symbol.
To me, it looks like these guys that are, like, flipping around and just, like, you know, like, hitting so fast.
Yeah, and I mean, that style could easily be, like, captured in Western cinema without, like, appropriating this image.
You could make it more serious, you could make it aesthetically more realistic, but, like, I feel like, as far as the pacing and the editing and the story goes, like, you could learn a lot from this as far as superhero storytelling.
100%. 100%.
So I give it a 5 out of 5. Go see it at Alamo Drafthouse.
You can?
I wish.
That sounds like something they would do.
I hope that they do, because I will have a ticket for that.
I will have a ticket?
I want a Mondo t-shirt.
Our first Gentleman for Cinephiles meetup is going to be at a Super Inframan screen.
That would be so good.
Excuse me, yeah, all three of you who listen. Just kidding.
It is one of my favorites. I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's super good. I am in love with the woman in it. Like Princess Dragon Mom.
I like Princess Dragon Mom, and I like, what is it? Demon... What's her name?
I don't know.
She's got, like, this woman that's got, like, a rhinoceros helmet and, like, a silver bikini and these, like, eye hands. That's her, like, number 2. You know, her OTP. But anyway, like, she's got, like, a really cool design, too. And she's, like, her, like, science person. She's got these Guillermo del Toro eye hands. And, yeah, that's great. Great female villains in that.
Yeah, just all around, it's a very strong film.
Absolutely. And you gave it how many out of how many?
What did I rate it on Letterboxd?
I think you gave it a 3.5.
Did I?
I think so.
That was my first time watching it, probably.
You know, I think that it's easy to sort of write it off when you first see it. But, like, it's the type of movie that I feel like stays with you, because you just think about, like, how it moves. And it just, like, I don't know, I just keep thinking about, like, the way that the action scenes play out. Like, so many moments just, like, stick out to me. There's this great one while she's looking
at... I gave it 4 stars.
Nice.
Yes.
There's this great one where he's fighting the bug monster after they've both grown giant. And he throws him into a power plant so he becomes really small. And it's, like, the craziest thing, because you never see this in any sort of tokusatsu show. But when the guy's small again... Inframan just walks up to him with his boot and just, like, you just see, like, this green blood, like, explode out of its head, and you're just like, oh my god! It's so visceral for some reason. Yeah. But it's so good, and it's just, like, moments like that you just, like, they just, like, stick with you afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really good.
5 out of 5.
4 out of 5 for me.
And where can they find us, Anne?
And you can find us at...
Oh shit, wait, no, let's go edit around this. Let's do the
Just kidding, we're gonna do movie recommendations, everybody. Yes. I'm trying to think, I didn't think about this before we got on air.
I'll go first.
Okay, you go first.
So, in regards to Super Inframan, I would probably recommend 36 Chamber of Shaolin, Kill Bill, Ultraman the TV show, and I don't know, maybe like One Punch Man. I don't know. You're still thinking.
I have no idea. Watch that episode of the Power Rangers where they lose their self-esteem.
Just watch Super Inframan. It's on Amazon Prime. Anybody who has it can watch it. It's super good.
It's generally dubbed in English.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not really like a...
I mean, you could. It's just that, like, the most common one, the one that's on Amazon, is the English dub, which honestly I prefer.
It works.
Like, their names are different in the Japanese original. Like, she's not called Princess Dragon Mom, and I don't like that. I like Princess Dragon Mom.
What is she called in the Japanese one?
I don't know, like Super Demon Woman thing or something. It's like they
Super Demon Woman thing.
There's literally a character in Journey to the West that's called, like, the Demon King Havoc. Like...
Love that. I like it. It's straight to the point.
I agree. I like it.
Like, we don't need to mess around.
It's like, this is Mutant Monster.
She's a demon princess lady.
This is Slime Monster. This is Hambo.
So, you can guys...
You can, guys.
Sure, you can, guys.
You can do it.
You guys can find us at our website, gentlemenforcinephiles.net.
Here on YouTube, where we have the dailies and such.
At Gentlemen for Cinephiles. It's gonna be great. It's a great time.
Yeah, and we got Spotify and iTunes and stuff.
You can find us anywhere.
You can
look us up.
If you want a free fry, get a free fry.
Get a free fry.
Want a burger?
Get a burger. So we will see you guys next time. What is our next episode, Charlie?
Our next episode is The Staircase.
No, it's not. That was last episode. We're not recording these in advance. Next episode, we're going to be joined by a podcast favorite, Brent Wilkerson.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Again, we're talking about.
It's a part 2 to our Star Wars, but Vince is not in it.
I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot more than just The Last Jedi with this one.
I'm going to be real, though. It's going to be like a really long episode, so everybody get ready. If
anybody remembers the Room episode with Brent, it's going to be a lot like
Go back and listen to the episode of The Room. Go back and listen to Disney Owns the World with Brent. If you know,
those are good.
He's a great guy.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah. Okay, but we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, let's do a punch into the camera. Ready? With the other hand. Both hands. Ready?